Good morning. Welcome to Stay in the Fight with me, Andrea Ferguson. Today is Monday, June 23rd, 2025. I can't believe we are halfway through the year right now. It's been a year. Thank you for being here. I hope that you share. I hope that you join us at andreaferguson.com so you know you have the daily affirmations and the mantras and the regulation, because I know you are here because you wish to be happy, to be healthy, to be okay. That's because that's what everyone wants. I know that. And if you agree, type in happy. We want to be happy. We want to be joyful. We want to be happy. We want to feel good. We want to have our emotions calm. We don't want to be in panic. We don't want to be in fear or anything like that. So I see there are a few people joining us. Shankar says happy. Yes, who doesn't want to be happy? Now, at one point, I'll have to talk about the difference between happiness and joy. And I think some of us are probably aware of that. I am just going to check all of these streams and make sure that we're coming in live. Oh, okay. So I see for one of them, I need to change this right now. All right. No, Facebook just does not want me to go live. It says that it says I'm live, but it's not showing it to anyone. So wherever you're viewing from, thank you for being here. I'm gonna leave that alone for now and figure it out later. But essentially, okay, so today we are going to talk about visualization. I know that we have talked about preparation being basically is the key to all success, but there's one thing that has been missing from that truth. And I'll start by asking you this. Comment if you have ever visualized. If you have ever visualized, say visualize. If you've ever tried it before. Because the whole premise of this is that visualization alone might be making you more anxious. And I want to know, have you ever tried it to begin with? Have you ever tried to visualize yourself getting your dream body, whether that be losing weight or switching careers? Maybe you're going for a new job or a new relationship, or like me, I had been visualizing forever putting these tiles up. It is not perfect. You can see one falling down now, but it took me 3 weeks to finally get there. What in the world? What keeps us from manifesting? Like, we're doing the work, we're doing the visualization, we're imagining everything perfectly. I'll tell you what it is after I tell you. Even though I had said the key to success is rehearsal, right? Why? Because we are already training ourselves to be able to perform. When you know what to expect, you just perform better. And that is proven by one of my heroes, Alex Honnold, who I've spoken of many a time. But Alex Honnold is the free solo climber who climbed this incredibly crazy vertical cliff. Check out the other videos that I've done about it. I've done so many videos now on it because it's 3,000 foot base to summit, 3,000 foot. And he did it, but not overnight. Literally, he spent 10 years rehearsing for that. 50 times he went to that mountain and climbed it with a rope before he did it without the rope. So the key to his success was rehearsal, and he talks about that. But guess what? There is something deeper. There's something else that needs to happen when we're doing the visualization and the rehearsal. And that is to not feel tense, to not feel overwhelmed, to not feel stressed. Your emotions are controlling the outcome of your visualization. And that alone might be the reason why you're feeling nervous. But I'm actually planning on sharing with you my notes because you don't have to take it from me. You can take it from the studies, you can take it from the doctors and neuroscientists. And I'm going to share with you literally my notes in my book. And I will just go over some of the things that I've highlighted and we can talk about it, the power of visualization, because it works. But if you don't know where you're going, every road will lead to nowhere. Henry Kissinger says that, and Dr. Swart opens up the chapter in her book talking about that as she goes into visualization. So I'm going to open my Remarkable and I'm going to share with you. By the way, let's see. Yeah. I love technology. It's so neat. And fortunately, everything works. So I'm going to just present it to you and we'll go through it together. Okay. So, without fail, in the run up to a big competition, skier Lindsey Vonn, a multi Olympic gold medalist, visualizes herself skiing the course. I always visualize the run before I do it. By the time I get to the gate, to the start gate, I've run that race 100 times already in my head, picturing how I'll take every turn. So I already said that is super important that you even, first of all, have a goal. I think we make a lot of wishes and dreams, but how concrete is that really? Do you wake up and know exactly what you're going to do the following day? Everything from your clothes laid out to what you're going to eat in the morning to all of these things. Have you visualized that? How do you do visualization? And hello, Jack. Thanks for being here. How do you visualize and what questions do you have for me? We can go over it, but I'm curious to know because I think it starts out with us first not necessarily running the race in our mind. Maybe we don't know what that race is and we kind of have an idea but we haven't fully formulated it. And everybody does everything differently. So I'm not saying there's one perfect way, but I think one of the problems that we start with is just not knowing the course track, which is crazy when you think about it because you would never go to a destination without knowing the way to get there, without having the GPS, without having on something, a map to guide you, right? But you have to know where you're going to go. Um, so moving on to the power of visualization. And I've written here, oh, is it not? Doesn't seem like it's cooperating. Uh-oh. Is it? Okay, here we go. So hypnotherapists commonly recommend having an elastic band on your wrist that you snap whenever you complete an action you've committed to, or having 3 bands on the left wrist that must be moved over to the right wrist over the course of a day when you think a positive thought or visualize a positive outcome. Be honest. Have you ever thought of doing that in your life? Like, have you ever thought about having a physical way to demonstrate when you have accomplished a goal or an action or a positive thought? I want to know right in the chat. Let me know if you've ever done that. I hadn't started doing that, but what that tells me is that you are so concrete on your goals. And by the way, the reason why it matters, why I mentioned like having your clothes out the day before and whatever, it could be whatever that version is for you. Whatever helps eliminate or reduce the number of decisions that you have to make so that you can concentrate on the harder stuff, on the tougher problems. That's one of the things we get caught up with distractions. Even tiny decisions take away your decision making power for something else. Because the truth is, we have a limited amount of decisions that we can make. And when we choose them on very ridiculous things, at least Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs would call them ridiculous. You know how Steve Jobs wore the same shirt every day, Mark Zuckerberg and other people, even Shankar before, I'm like, you have to wear something different. Why? They do it because it reduces the decisions that they need to make. It's not all brand. Some of it is. It's a nice byproduct, but it's also about paving the way to concentrate and focus on the things that matter. And that's something that just type in focus if you agree. Focus, focus, focus. There goes a tile. That tile I was telling you about. See, there's something in me that doesn't feel safe enough to truly go into making these tiles reinforced. So Jack says, I've only tried negative reinforcement on myself if I fall into bad habits. Jack, exactly. That's exactly it. Now I'm excited over something that's quite bad. So I apologize. But we've all done it. And that's the key thing. It's rehearsal. You can rehearse good habits, you can rehearse bad habits. You can reinforce the positive, you can reinforce the negative. And it has mostly everything to do with how you feel. Okay? So that's the secret. I've already given it away. But I want to go back to something here. I don't know why. I guess I have to have this remarkable up as I show it. Okay. So let's go to studies show that people who imagine themselves flexing a muscle achieve actual physical strength gains and activate brain pathways in the cortex that are related to the movement. That's powerful. Okay, so psychologist Guang Yue asked the test group to do imaginary workouts at the Cleveland Clinic Foundation in Ohio. His team found increases in muscle mass despite not doing any activity. Incredible. Okay, and she goes on and talks about 6 volunteers performed physical finger training. Training lasted for 12 weeks. At the end of the training, the first group had increased their finger strength by 34%, and the second group improved their elbow strength by 13.5%, despite taking no actual physical activity. So, what this is teaching us is that you match visualizations with simulated physical sensations, and you are improving the brain body connection in relation to this activity. The brain registers this at a deep level and is more likely to make a positive connection to a trigger or event related to this in real life. Wow. How incredibly elastic are our brains? There is a mind body connection. So if you just imagine yourself doing something, we now have evidence, it's very well studied, that you are actually making changes, you're making connections in your brain. So that can work against us as well. As Jack said, right? He says, but I'd imagine concentrating your mind on positive thoughts only is much easier said than done. That is absolutely true. And why is that? Because the brain is wired to scan for threats. So it's going to be looking for all of the unsafe ways, all of the things that can happen that can possibly go wrong. I don't know what my brain thinks will go wrong if I, take the time to put up the tiles. Maybe I'm overwhelmed because I think, oh my gosh, it's going to take so much time. Or maybe somebody can't switch careers because they think, I don't know what's going to happen, right? So the brain does protect you from the unknown. The brain likes to feel comfortable. But with this, we can now see there's evidence that you can make a mind body connection. So even if it's not really truly happening, you can trick your brain into thinking that it's happening. You just have to be intentional about it because you know things that your brain doesn't know, which is your long term goals. The reason why what you're visualizing is healthy for you. So you have to, instead of coming at your visualization in an anxious way, do all of the little tricks and the things, which may include having an elastic band or a bracelet and snapping it to make that body-mind connection. I've done something positive. I've made my body feel safe. I've done something that can be rewarded. So you feel less anxious and your brain will want to repeat that behavior. Bringing together a physical and mental trigger will activate the body as well as the brain, forming double the reinforcement for the desired outcome. We're priming our brain to recognize and be skilled at something, even if it's never been seen or done before. Okay. So, as I said, like the tiles behind me that I told I'd fixed 3 weeks ago, I visualized the repair, but I must have visualized doing it under pressure. But when I finally decided, heck, I don't care. I don't care. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to try. I had calm. And I know this is a relatively simple explanation to something that could be way more daunting and dangerous. Like I said, maybe it's doing the podcast or going live, visualizing yourself. Maybe it is losing the weight, knowing, oh God, I got to go into the gym. I got to get on those stairs. Like me, I'm visualizing myself by December with a completely ripped body and hard abs and all of that. Why doesn't the work, why doesn't it happen? Why doesn't it materialize? It's because there's still something in you that feels unsafe. And if you come at those visualizations with panic, with fear, even just underlyingly, the brain is very smart because you are not only encoding, the visualization, you're encoding the feeling of what happens when you do that thing. So, what's the antidote? How in the world are we supposed to get over that? This is why I believe mindfulness is so important, you guys, because I think that we really underestimate the day to day things that make us feel safe. I'm gonna stop sharing for a while if I haven't already. But go ahead and put in the chat if you have tried visualization. I want to know if you've tried it. I'm going to just see if I can make this happen. Bear with me for a moment. No, it's just gonna only lets me go live too. Okay. So if you have tried the visualization and it's not working, I want to challenge you to be mindful every day by taking a thing that you want and making sure that you are regulated. How do you do that? Just breathe. Start with your breath because your breath is an anchor. Your breath is an anchor. You may need to also work out the reasons why you feel unsafe. And you need to be honest with yourself because the brain knows when you lie. And you can also be doing more damage than harm if you don't take the time to uncover that. So we're going to do that right now, okay? I want you to think about something that you want and be honest with yourself, something that you want but haven't achieved. I'm going to put on a little bit of music. Just take a moment to think about something that you want to achieve. Find that thing, and I'll think with you for just a moment. And really be honest with yourself. It can be physical, it can be mental, it can be emotional, professional. Ask yourself what it is that you want and have been wanting, and then ask yourself why you haven't gone after it. What about it do you not feel safe about? So Jack says, oftentimes my doubts and fears are irrational, but even being conscious of the irrationality doesn't alleviate the worry and anxiety. Yeah, so we need to suss that out. We need to sort out what that is, right? So I am not proposing that we are, and thank you for doing that. I'm going to continue on, Jack, and then I'll get to your question. But take a breath, okay? Let's just take a breath together. A deep breath. Hold it. And out. We're going to repeat. Deep breath in. Hold it. And out. Okay, so whatever it takes to regulate you, to get you to the state of calm, and if you are calm, type in calm. I want to know that I'm not alone. Whatever it takes to get you to that state of peace and calm before you do the visualization, that's the state you want to be. You don't want to be in an antsy state. But as I said, mindfulness every single day is like a muscle that you're building that helps you. So when anxiety does come, you know how to at least combat it because you've been putting your body in that state every day so that it becomes normal and regular and usual and familiar. All right. But I am not going to just leave it to me. I'm going to go back to where we were and then I can answer more of Jack's question. Okay. So, what do we already know? Let me recap here. So, we know that you're sending two conflicting images, which is the image is calm and success, but the physiology is nervous, threat, pressure, all of that, right? I call that somatic mismatch rehearsal. You're rehearsing the wrong thing. You force yourself to picture success. Your body is not in agreement. So there's a mismatch, right? Because you had already sat down to visualize it, but you were tense, your shoulders were high, your breath was shallow, your brain is racing. Maybe not all the time. That's the thing. It's not always intentional visualization, which that's why you need mindfulness so you can plug in the time to do it when you can clear your mind and you're being intentional about it instead of thinking, because we don't understand when we think, sometimes we're still visualizing. When you think, you can be visualizing and you can see why that's dangerous. Because if you are off and you're thinking about it and visualizing it, you're encoding that fear. Okay. I hope that is very, 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 very clear. The nervous system encodes that mismatch, remembers how you felt, not just what you imagined. So you're unintentionally rehearsing resistance. Okay. So we get that. So that is the whole visualization trap. Now, your brain can picture success, but the body has to feel that success as well. So we're told to see it to believe it, but your body has to feel it. That's why I want to encourage you to get that elastic band on your wrist that you snap whenever you complete an action you're committed to, or having 3 bands on the left that you move to the right, because now we are making that mind body connection, that physical and mental trigger, and we're activating the body as well as the brain to double reinforce that desired outcome. Okay. So now we know we need to regulate. We know we need body set, not just mindset. And get ready, it's coming. You need mantras. You need regulation tips. You need affirmations. You need to say them every single day, but it needs to correspond to what you're trying to do. Okay. There needs to be a match. There needs to be harmony. So I'll leave you with this. Okay. Visualization is not wrong. It just needs to be in the right state. So if you're trying to leave someone, and I know somebody, unfortunately, I know people who are not in the best of circumstances, and relationships can be personal. They can also be with your company or in the career that you're stuck in or whatever. And if you are like, I got to get out of here, I got to get out of here, and you're already putting yourself in this tense state, you're probably not going to achieve that desired outcome. And you may be too afraid to do some of the things you need to do, or your brain is just going to keep scanning for the threats. So instead, what I want you to do is to visualize the positive outcome of that action. What would happen if you finally choose a career change where you feel peace and satisfaction and joy and rest and comfort and no hell, but just inner peace completely? That is what you're striving for. It's the same as when people go to get the Lexus or the Lamborghini or the Ferrari or the big mansion and this and that. What they mean, they like the feeling that they get when they drive that. And yeah, it's nice to have that interior, but with the big mansion or the house and all of that, it's it's actually more work. Like, I don't actually want that because I know myself. I don't want to have the responsibility that comes with it, but maybe people just you may envision the clean, open, clear space, right? Or the breathability. And a lot of this has to do with changing your environment. When you change your environment, guess what? It changes the way you visualize because it changes the way you feel. It changes your attitude, your atmosphere. So why visualization alone might be making you more anxious is because you're anxious when you're doing the visualization, or substitute whatever, doubtful, fearful, um, unprepared, right? So you can get prepared by saying, what would the process be? What are the steps that would look like for me to get this business up and running, to start this LLC, or to get into crypto because I want to, but I'm so scared? Which, by the way, just going to take a pause and say, Crypto Alliance, as you can see, which is right up here, Crypto Alliance is all about understanding wealth is safe. Wealth is safe. There is a way to invest where you don't have the highest risk of losing money. Of course, there's always the risk. There's also the risk of the sun not rising tomorrow or not waking up. There's always risks in life. So I'm not going to lie to you and say there's no risk. But wealth can be safe. You can be healthy, you can be wealthy, and you can be free. But you have to make decisions. The whole reason we're talking about emotional regulation as it pertains to financial regulation, as it pertains to your finances, your money, is because too often we don't make enough money because we haven't made ourselves feel safe. Or we get the money, but we can't hold the money because we don't have the emotional capacity to do so. Yes, there is a such thing. The emotional capacity is relevant to how well you stay regulated under pressure. Because a lot of the worst decisions you'll ever make in every aspect of your life comes from you not taking the time every single day to be mindful, to be grateful, to take a moment to learn how to breathe, to be intentional about your visualizations, to work on speaking with your partner or your teammates, people at the store, with regulated ease. You see, the small things that you do every single day, part to whole, it makes up who you are. If you're operating from a dysregulated state, the outcome you're going to get is dysregulated dysfunction. So this is why I say, get into the Telegram where you can at least get, if you feel like you don't have the time to do it or you want a little bit more support, get into that Telegram. Go to AndreaFerguson.com so you can get the daily affirmations and the mantras, and I'll do the work for you, because I believe that if every one of us is regulated, we have a better society. Imagine if you went to the grocery store and you didn't get the rude or angry or, whatever grocer, because they were able to emotionally regulate. Maybe they were exhausted, maybe they had a bad night, or maybe they had just a bad day, but they didn't take it out on you. The same with servers, and you're in pretty much any industry, the banker, the person when you go to get your windows washed, literally pick any industry, and we will always find people that are dysregulated. Why? Because they haven't dealt with the emotional regulation every single day with the small steps of breathing right, of taking the time to sort their head out and be calm. You may think you don't have the time for it, but when your money's on the line, I guarantee you'll wish you had made the time for it. So that's pretty much what I have. I mean, I want you to understand there's a mind body connection. We can trick our brains into thinking that it's already familiar because there's so much around unfamiliarity. When you are unfamiliar, you're putting that mistrust in your body and it's harder to get anything done. So you want an abundant mindset. It starts with making yourself feel safe. Regulate. Regulate first before you do those visualizations, though. And when you do something that's really tough, imagine it from beginning to end. What you're wearing, what shoes you have on, what you're gonna smell like if you wear cologne. Doing all of those itty bitty things helps to build the confidence because you're so familiar with it. Memorizing your speech beginning to end, doing all of those things, and raise your awareness. Okay. So I want to stop and ask, do we have any questions? Normally I go into more of the brain, but I didn't do that today. I mean, as I said, this is a practice every day that you need to build up by being mindful, but that's only done by you and you alone. But I'm here to help you. So that's it. That's all I have for right now. Maybe I'll do a part 2 where I go more into the physical things that happen in your brain. I don't know. You let me know. Give me a DM or comment right now. I'm going to go back to the comments to see if you have anything. And if you're wondering about that worry and anxiety, like I said, you can combat that every day with affirmations that speak to your thought, like your core thought and belief around that worry or anxiety. But it's up to you to pinpoint what it is. Okay. So I hope you did the visualization of, or the exercise of figuring out what it is that you even want. And now you need to figure out what makes it feel unsafe? And then figure out what would make me feel safe. Oftentimes you'll find out it's nothing. It's just a matter of doing it. Not all of the time. Sometimes there's real imminent fear or danger. Like Alex Honnold, take him for example. Like you fall off the cliff and that's the end, right? So there's real fears and I don't want to minimize that. I'm just saying that the more you go deeper and deeper into what it is that you want, visualizing and before you do that, understanding what the fears are around it, then you can say, okay. So if my fear is that I'm going to fail, what is the worst thing that would happen if I do fail? Okay, it takes a little bit longer for me to achieve that goal, but I can do it, right? Like if you go into the gym and you have this goal of working out and you stop after 10 days, maybe it's because you feel like you're doing it alone. So you need to find somebody that you can pair up with and have accountability with. It's not always that simple, but maybe work to find the real reasons why you're not achieving your goals and then counter that by having a really good regulation affirmation and mantra and then taking the action to be accountable for it. All right. That's all I have for you today. Actually, it's funny because I thought I was going to end early, but I see that I'm a little bit over time. So I am going to ask you to come in tomorrow, subscribe, like the channel, get into AndreaFerguson.com, into the Telegram so we can give you lots of good stuff. And we'll see you tomorrow. All right. Wealth is emotional. Stay operational. I'm Andrea Ferguson, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.